93.3 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
NASA astronauts will not be home for the holidays. I'm Ann Carrick, Fox News. More delays for the two NASA astronauts who traveled to space on the Boeing Starliner.
Starliner astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams' stay in space just got a lot longer. The two astronauts will return home, or will not return home, rather, until February. Take a listen to Bill Nelson.
Space flight is risky, even at its safest.
Now, this big decision comes after the Boeing spacecraft that the two astronauts traveled on had issues with helium leaks and thruster problems. If this mission would have gone perfectly, the Starliner would have been docked for just 8 days, but that was not the case. And so the astronauts remained in space for more than 2 months while NASA and Boeing officials gathered data to better understand the technical issues.
Fox's Christina Coleman. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. suspends his independent presidential campaign and endorses former President Trump. The Friday announcement included plenty of criticism of changes in the Democratic Party. Fox's Griff Jenkins.
RFK Jr. took the stage alongside Trump just hours after suspending his campaign and endorsing the GOP ticket.
The best way to build a safe America is to rebuild our industrial base and rebuild the middle class in this country.
Trump praised Kennedy for running a tough campaign that at tough times, he's reaching out to his voters.
And all who supported Bobby's campaign, I very simply ask you join us in building this coalition. It's a beautiful coalition.
What impact will it have? Fox's polling shows Kennedy voters breaking about 60-40 for Trump over Harris.
Both the Kennedy family and the Harris campaign releasing statements criticizing that decision by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. America is listening to Fox News.
Stay on top of the latest forecast with America's Weather Team in the palm of your hands.
Here's the latest from America's Weather Center.
It's Fox weather updates throughout your busy day, every day.
That heat's going to be out there for one more day.
Temperatures being 30 degrees above average.
Put the power of over 100 meteorologists and the worldwide resources of Fox in your hands with the Fox Weather Podcast. Precise, personal, powerful. Subscribe and listen now at foxnewspodcasts.com. Connect to Fox News Audio on the Fox News app. Listen to hear your favorite hosts like Brian Kilmeade, Jimmy Fallon, and Guy Benson standing up for what's right, live and via podcast. Just click listen, then swipe right and hear the latest news updates on your time. And scroll down to hear the latest podcasts from Fox News. And it's even easier to listen in the car with Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Get programming alerts and notifications. Fox News Audio is on the Fox News app. The voices America trusts. Download it now.
Former President Donald
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
They didn't explain. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. Transparency was missing from Friday's Delphi murders case hearing. Donnie Burgess reports.
If you wanted to know what went on during the hearing, well, you're out of luck. The first part of Friday's hearing in Carroll County was off limits to reporters and the public in the first place. The second part, which was supposed to be public, was canceled without any explanation at the last minute. The state and defense have a few fresh motions in the system now. The trial begins October 14th. Donnie Burgess, 93 WIBC Mobile News.
And a now 19-year-old is likely going to spend the majority of his life in prison after he was found guilty of a 2021 murder Friday. The St. Joseph County Prosecutor's Office says Kadir Karaz killed 19-year-old Ashanti Hines in October of 2021. With this conviction, Karaz could go to prison for 45 to 65 years, with additional time for a felony firearm enhancement. He will be sentenced October 4th. But retired public employees in Indiana are getting an extra financial boost in the form of a 13th check. A bill that has since become law makes sure employees like retired police and teachers get the money they need. State Representative Matt Lehman of Bern co-wrote the bill.
Fortunately, thanks to smart fiscal leadership, Indiana has the resources available to provide this one-time supplemental payment.
He says this check will help them cover the cost of living gaps, which will make sure retirees aren't left in a challenging financial position. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, partly cloudy, low temperatures in the upper 60s. And for tomorrow, partly cloudy, hot, and slightly humid. High temperatures in the lower 90s. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Healthcare.gov is here for you when life happens. If you lost your health coverage because of turning 26, going off Medicaid, leaving your job, or moving, you could be eligible to enroll in new coverage now. And if you need to update your coverage because of marriage or having a baby, you could also be eligible. But don't wait. There's a limited time to enroll. Check your eligibility at healthcare.gov today. Life happens. Get covered. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
Hey, y'all, I'm Blake Shelton. Being from Oklahoma, I know a thing or two about natural disasters. Tornadoes are common where I'm from and have affected my life and the lives of people I care about. No matter where you live, be aware of the dangers in your area and have a plan. You can create an emergency kit, come up with an evacuation plan, and know where to seek shelter. You never know when a disaster may hit. These simple steps can help save a life. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Great news! Indy Rhino Shield has partnered with Green Sky Financing to offer affordable monthly payments with 0% interest loans to qualified customers. Call 888-RHINO-41 for details.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're glad you're with us. Hope you're enjoying another spectacular afternoon in Indiana. Hope you got out and were able to exercise your Second Amendment rights. Man, yesterday I had a good day. I was on my way down to do radio. I sat in for Hammer on the Hammer and Nigel show yesterday, and I had the opportunity to actually zero a couple of new rifles. Excited about this. I decided to build a plinker. Got a little Ruger 1022 22 rifle. And where that started, I had a nice optic that I kind of forgot I had. I had taken it off of a long range rifle, a 300 Win Mag, and upgraded. And I was down in the basement looking for something else, and I've got kind of a corner of the basement that my wife refers to as your gun stuff. So I was over, looking through my gun stuff, looking actually for something completely different, and found this really nice Leupold VX2 optic. And I thought, man, this is too nice of a scope just be sitting around and doing nothing with. And so I need to do something with this. And I said, all right, what would I put this on? And I thought, what I do not have that I've had in the past. I had when I was a kid, a teenager. It's just a 22 plinker. If you're not familiar with that term, I'm sure 99% of people listening to the Gun Guy Show are intimately familiar with the term plinker. But you're talking about, a small caliber gun that's a lot of fun for target practice, that's accurate, to a reasonable distance, not anything like a much higher caliber. And, if the need arises, if there's some critter or varmint or vermin that needs to be dispatched, it's, of course, only within the laws of your jurisdiction, and or your homeowners association rules, the regulations of your community, of course. You can dispatch what critter might need to end its involvement in your life. But and I haven't had one for years, and I thought, this would be a great optic. And so I started thinking about it, and listen, one rifle that I've seen a million of, I've never owned one. And when we used to, when civilians used to have access to Eagle Creek Pistol Range back in the day, before our beloved Mayor Joe Hogsett decided that civilians and taxpayers just got to pay for the range, we didn't actually get to use it anymore. and kicked civilians out of there and made it law enforcement only for years, decades, generations. It was available to civilians on weekends, and for years, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years, I ran it. My company, Tactical Firearms Training, operated Eagle Creek Pistol Range, and it was a lot of fun. It was only on weekends when it was open to the public. But out there, I'll tell you, it was open to pistol calibers, whether it was a long gun or not. And a gun I saw out there a million times, shot him a bunch of times. And, you know, I often refer to the AR-15 as America's rifle. There's a legitimate case to be made for the little Ruger 1022 22 rifle to be called America's rifle, just because there's a gazillion of them out there. They're reliable, they're accurate, they're fun. You can accessorize them. You can get a million different combinations. They make a competition model. They make a breakdown model. A lot of people say, hey, if I have to grab my bug out bag and go running into the wilderness to escape, you know, the roll of tanks in my neighborhood or whatever, I'm going to grab my Ruger 1022 breakdown model, because you can take the barrel off of it very easily, very quickly, stick it in a backpack, go running through the woods. But anyway, I decided, yes, I'm building a plinker, starting with a very nice optic. And so I started looking around. I called my friends down at Indy Arms, and Mark Welter, who's the sales manager down there, just does a fabulous job. Mark, he is so knowledgeable and knows exactly what he's doing. And listen, unpaid endorsement. I teach classes at Indy Arms, but I don't pay them any money to do so. They don't pay me any money to do so. And we just have a friendly arm's length relationship. But Mark does just an incredible job down there. If you're shopping for a firearm, among several other places that are friends of mine and even sponsors of the Gun Guy Show, Indy Arms is a place to look. So I called my friend Mark and I said, hey, you've got a 1022 down there? He goes, oh, yeah. We've got one with a heavy barrel and a Hogue over-molded stock, which is that's perfect. The heavy barrel, you know, I wanted to be able to shoot accurately at longer distances, longer, quote unquote, for 22. And then I stopped by my buddies at Pinnacle Firearms in Carmel, and they set me up with a set of rings. They had a broader selection of rings and whatnot. In fact, their in-house gunsmith right there, Ethan, my buddy, mounted my rings for me right there at Pinnacle Firearms. One thing I love about Pinnacle, and you've heard me advertise for them, and I have had a commercial relationship with them too, full disclosure, right there, they got a full-time in-house gunsmith, and they also do Cerakoting and refinishing. Love that. And anyway, they mounted my rings, mounted my optic on there, and I bought a bipod for it, and boom, I'm on my way downtown to do radio yesterday. But I also had my new Rock 15 from Rock Op Defense Solutions, a new sponsor of the Gun Guy Show. You'll hear me go through an ad for them here during the show tonight. But I have my new Rock 15, and in fact, we had Ross Earls, one of the two owners, guy in law enforcement, longtime gun nut, been a friend of mine for a long time, started building absolutely top-end AR-15s right here in central Indiana, over there in Avon. Just Google it, Rock Op Defense Solutions. And they built me a rifle. We had it right here in the studio last weekend. And Ross was here. He was able to go through the incredible detail they go through in producing these rifles. Fabulous trigger. But I thought, man, I'm gonna zero in both these rifles. So my little 22 Plinker and my awesome AR-15, my Rock 15 from Rock Op Defense Solutions. So on the way downtown, I didn't have much time. But if you know how to zero a rifle, it really doesn't take much time. Especially with an optic on it. You want to start at some distance, just make sure you're on paper and see where you're shooting, see where the optic's shooting. And then from then on, as long as you understand how your optic works, and I have this beautiful ACOG on my Rock Op AR-15, and this an absolute cinch to adjust both for elevation and windage, and this beautiful loophole I had on my new Plinker. And so I just shot a shot or two, saw where I was, measured the distance, click, 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 boom, I was zeroed. And then I just sat there. I mean, I had them both zeroed in 10 or 15 minutes. And then I just sat there and just shot for a while because it was just really fun to sit there. And the longest distance available on the rifle range, as with most indoor ranges, there at Indy Arms is 25 yards. And I was actually zeroing for 50 yards with my AR-15. 22-0 at 25 yards is fine with me. But anyway, and I just sat there and just punched the middle out of some bullseyes for a while, which is just satisfying. So anyway, it was just fun, and enjoyed the hell out of it. Love both those new firearms, and that's the kind of joy you can get out of exercising your Second Amendment rights, and with doing business for some of the great firearms-related businesses there are out there, including sponsors of the Gun Guy Show and friends of mine. And again, friends of mine at Indy Arms, sponsors, and friends of mine at Rock Op Defense Solutions. Love you guys both, and couldn't be happier with the relationships we have and transactions we've had here just recently. Right now, at the quarter hour, we're taking a break. I want to get into a very interesting decision. One judge is out in Kansas. A judge has found that the essentially the ban, it's not really a ban, but the severe restrictions on the ownership of automatic weapons, we're talking about machine guns, is unconstitutional. And what does that mean? What does that mean for you? What does it mean for me? Does that mean we can all run out and buy a fully automatic machine gun tomorrow? Well, that's what we'll get into. And as we always want to do, we want to take your calls, questions, comments, whatever you want to provide. We love our callers. We started it as an all call-in show. We want to be true to that heritage. So give us a call, 317-239-9393. We've got producer Landon who's filling in for Jack. Landon's a great guy. You can hear him, although I think they call him Jimmy on the Home and Garden Show. And why I do not know, because your name's Landon.
Yeah, just when I first met Pat, Kylan Talley was training me on the show, and she introduced me. Love
Kylan. She's awesome.
She's a sweetheart. Kylan was training me, and she introduced me to Pat, and she said, "Pat, this is Landon. He's going to be starting doing the show." And he just goes, "Landon, I'm not going to be able to remember that, so I'm just going to call you Jimmy." And it's just stuck ever since.
Well, listen, here on the Gun Guy Show, you're Landon. We're going to show you the respect of calling you by your name, Landon. And Landon's a great producer. We're lucky to have him filling in today. And give us a call. Landon will answer the phone. Just let him know what you want to talk about, and we'll get you right on the air. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Kamala Harris is there right now. She's the de facto president because, let's be honest, President Applesauce Brains isn't calling the shots. It's her and the Obamas. And they're talking about how we need to have hope in this country. Donald Trump has not been the president for nearly 4 years now. And 12 of the last 16 years has been Democrat leadership. So why do we need hope? This is your doing. It's ridiculous.
Hammer and Nigel. Weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Hey, Guy Relford here. We're inviting you to join me at Premier Arms. Their anniversary party in Brownsburg is next weekend, August 31st. And they're having an event to support the Indiana Veterans of Foreign Wars. It's going to be a little bit different schedule than you're used to. It's going to be from 2 to 6. I'll do the Gun Guy Show live after a live Eat, Drink, Smoke show. But Eat, Drink, Smoke's going to start at 2. It's going to go through 4. And then the Gun Guy Show is just going to be from 4 basically till 6. And so it's going to be about an hour earlier than you're used to hearing. But we'd love to have you there. Again, this is to benefit VFW Indiana. Please join us at Premier Arms. You can check out the schedule at premierarms.com. And it's going to be a fantastic auction and a lot of other ways to raise money for the folks at the VFW of Indiana. So please join us next Saturday at Premier Arms Anniversary Party to raise money for VFW Indiana. They're going to have food, drinks, prizes, terrific firearms auction. We'll see you at Premier Arms next weekend in Brownsburg.
Greetings from R&R Agency, your Indiana health insurance pros. And a thank you to our loyal customers for making our agency a national sales leader for the 7th straight year. We recently saved a family of 4 over $500 monthly when compared to their ACA plan. You know it's still Obamacare, right? We recently saved a 61-year-old retiring couple over 600 hours when compared to their COBRA plan. Breaking news. We are now able to offer health insurance to employer groups of all sizes with two of the largest insurers in the Midwest. We'll be here when you need us. Quoting my favorite president, what the heck do you have to lose? We can help. As always, God bless America, or at least what's left of her.
Call Ron or Terry at 317-563-0868. That's 317-563-0868. Or go to rragency.org. That's rragency.org. A health plan managed and chosen by you, not the government.
JMV here for Sundown Gardens and Miss M's Home and Garden at both locations this week. Get 20% off container trees and shrubs and 30% off bald and burlap evergreens. Up north at Sundown Gardens only, 50% off bald and burlap shade trees. Mums are in and more are arriving daily. Sundown Gardens at 186th and Spring Mill Road in Westfield, sundowngardens.com. Miss M's Home and Garden, State Road 135 in Bargersville. That's missmshomeandgarden.com.
Remember the big bad wolf? Miss Shalis does. Because around here, all that huffing and puffing and blowing houses down stuff comes in the form of rain, wind, and hail. And no matter what your structure is made of, Miss Shalis is made of first responders and craftsmen who can restore it to better than new condition. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Miss Shalis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Miss Shalis.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Shh. The silence you just heard? You could have used that space to reach your customers. Get your message in front of your customers. Text BUSINESS to 71007 now. Get results with Radio 1.
Hammer and Nigel here, inviting you to join us as we kick off the weekend every Friday around 5:45 with Beer Sample Friday, brought to you by our friends at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus.
We need each other because every someone needs someone else.
We need each other because when we work together, we can do so much more.
We connect more children with what they need to grow up healthy, educated, and safe. And that's what Child Fund is all about.
Because when you make someone's world better, you make everyone's world better.
Child Fund, because we need each other.
Learn more at childfund.org. That's childfund.org.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org. You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of kids in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org, brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. Through their service, veterans have our backs. Now we should have theirs. Learn more at gotyoursix.org.
Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So I mentioned before the break that a judge, there's a district court judge, let's go through a little terminology. How's the federal court system work? Well, the trial courts, where cases start, whether they're criminal prosecutions or civil cases, people are suing each other, that's the district court. That's a trial court. That's where you can go in, file a lawsuit, or prosecutors can start a criminal prosecution, and then it can get appealed up from that. And in the federal system, you go up to the Court of Appeals. Here in Indiana, we're in the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals. So if you lose a case here in district court, which is the trial court, you appeal it. It goes up to the 7th Circuit. And then for a lot of cases, most cases, you lose there. If you have some basis to try to take it up to the Supreme Court, that's where you go from the Court of Appeals. So there are district court judges in each of the districts. For instance, in Indiana, we have 2 federal districts, the Northern District and the Southern District. Indianapolis, Marion County, is in the Southern District. And then not too far north of Indianapolis, it turns in to the Northern District. Some states like California have more districts than that. Some states just have one district. But that's how the process works. So when you hear that a district court judge has done something, that means a trial court judge in their particular district has ruled a particular way. And a lot of people are talking about, and it is very interesting, the fact that U.S. District Court Judge John Brooms, it's Broomes, in Wichita, Kansas, ruled in a case where someone was being, what it looks like to me anyway, and I've not read the whole opinion, but it looks like to me like somebody was being prosecuted for illegal possession of a machine gun. And this judge, Judge Brooms, ruled that the statute that makes it illegal to possess a machine gun under most, or at least a lot of situations, was unconstitutional. So let's unpack this a little bit. First of all, is it in fact, well, let's back up more than that. What are we talking about when we talk about a machine gun? What are we even talking about? Well, a firearm that if you pull the trigger just once, just through one function of the trigger, you get more than one bullet. That's, under federal statutes, a machine gun. So, for instance, the M4, which has been carried for quite some time by U.S. military, was really for a large part, the successor to the M16. With an M4, you can set that rifle to fire either semi-automatic, which means you pull the trigger once, you get one bullet, or you can set it to fire 3-round bursts. So you set it to the 3-round burst, pull the trigger, you get 3 shots. By virtue of the fact that you got more than one bullet coming out of the barrel for just one function of the trigger, that makes it a machine gun. You know, other guns, you pull the trigger that are machine guns, and they just keep firing. They keep firing until they're empty or they jam or otherwise malfunction. By the way, jam isn't really a term that firearms instructors or people who spend a lot of time around guns really use. We talk about malfunctions based on what the particular malfunction is. So, failure to feed, failure to eject, whatever it might be. We usually get a little more specific. But at any rate, either the gun malfunctions or you run out of ammunition or you let up on the trigger. Otherwise, a fully automatic firearm is not limited to some number of rounds. Will keep firing. That's a machine gun. Well, okay. Are they illegal? Well, this goes back to the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986. And what are we talking about with the Firearm Owners Protection Act of 1986? The act was brought, I think it was well intended when it was brought. And listen, this was during, I think, the heyday of the NRA, when the NRA really, I think, had some of its most influence, when I think more legislators in Washington were really concerned about what their rating was going to be with the NRA, whether NRA might oppose them in then their next election. And listen, I'd like for NRA to get back there. I mean, I think changes in leadership, organization, with the removal of Wayne LaPierre, they're heading in the right direction. And I'd love to see a resurgence, a reincarnation of the very strong, very powerful NRA that we had years ago. But that's really where they were in 1986. And the Firearm Owners Protection Act in 1986 really started with exactly what it sounds like. It was designed to protect firearm owners. And they were specifically concerned, I think the major impetus behind that act having been filed was a lot of ATF abuses. And the ATF was really targeting not only law-abiding citizens, but law-abiding gun shops, just really with a goal, I think, of restricting the Second Amendment rights of lawful businesses and lawful individuals. And the Firearm Owners Protection Act sought to address that. And it addressed other things I think that were also important. They were important then, they're important now. Like, for instance, the ability to travel across the country with your firearm. There is a safe passage provision in FOPA, if you want to call it that. It's the Federal Firearms Owners Protection Act of 1986, and it says that if you're legal to possess and carry a firearm at your point of origin, and you want to travel, and you're legal to possess and carry that firearm at your destination, you can carry that firearm in your vehicle while traveling. We're talking about driving now. This doesn't really regulate air travel. That's kind of another area that I've talked about before. But you can drive across the country with that firearm that you legally possess where you started and legally possess where you're going. And then there are a bunch of restrictions on that. And listen, just Google it, FOPA 1986. It'll give you all the specifics. But generally speaking, the gun has to be unloaded. It has to be in a separate compartment from the passenger compartment, so it needs to be in the trunk. It needs to be separate from any ammunition. If you're in a vehicle that doesn't have a separate compartment from the passenger compartment, so like you're in a van or a pickup truck, or even now a SUV that doesn't have a trunk, then the gun needs to be unloaded in a locked container separate from any ammunition. And generally speaking, the ammunition ought to be locked up too. So that allows you, now Illinois has its own safe passage provision, but for years they didn't. And the Firearm Owners Protection Act allowed me to drive across Illinois if I had my gun in that condition. And it says, notwithstanding the laws of any state or political subdivision that you drive through, you can legally possess that gun as long as you have the gun in the condition I described, and you're legal where you start and you're legal where you're going. Now, that puts a burden on the gun owner. I mean, how do you prove where you're going? I always wanted to have like a printed hotel reservation, or I'd print a confirmation email from, whoever it was that was confirming I was going to, where I was going, so that I could prove I wasn't just driving somewhere in Illinois. I was driving to somewhere else where I was legal to possess and carry my gun, because that's a requirement of FOPA, the safe passage provision, that I'm legal where I start and I'm legal where I'm going. And that was good. And that's also the law, by the way, that said the federal government is prohibited from keeping a registry, a list, any kind of database of gun owners. That's a very positive thing. That essentially prohibits federal registration. You don't think, and I'll talk about the current election here in a bit, you don't think Kamala and the rest of the Democrats and the people supporting them wouldn't love to put mandatory registration in place? Why? Because when they know who owns all the guns, because they're all registered as mandated by a federal law they'd love to see in place. Then they know exactly where to go when they want to confiscate the guns. And Kamala, even though she's backing off from it now, at least until she, God forbid, gets elected, she supported a quote-unquote mandatory buyback program. What's a mandatory buyback program? That's confiscation, where you might get a check as part of the process. Registration starts with that. Well, FOPA prevented registration. Well, and we're a little past the bottom of the hour, so it's time to take a break, but I'll leave you with this. What FOPA also included, though, and this is a fairly late addition, and people call this the Hughes Amendment, because it was offered by one particular senator, I believe, Hughes, who put in there that, well, as of the date this act is passed and it goes into effect, which turned out to be, I think, April of 1986, that there will be no more automatic firearms that can be registered to individuals under the National Firearms Act, because they're like a suppressor or a short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, they have to be registered. And that's been true since 1934. But under the Firearm Owners Protection Act 1986, it said we will not register any more automatic firearms to private individuals, they will be limited to law enforcement and military as of the effective date of this act. However, if they were registered to a private individual before the effective date of this act, then they can still be transferred. What does that mean? That means you have to have a transferable machine gun to either possess it or transfer it to someone else. And it means, since they've been incredibly limited to that supply that were in existence and in civilian hands before 1986, they're incredibly expensive. So they're not banned. They're just very limited. They're very rare. And they're very difficult to obtain because there are so few of them, because they have to have been registered and in civilian hands before 1986. So what does this district court judge's ruling mean? That's what we'll get into when we come back. Right now, we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
We assume that you have one of those kind of soaking tubs.
Oh, you're talking about like up at the Coco Motel. The Kokomo there.
The Coco Motel?
Yeah.
Please tell me there's a real place called the Coco Motel.
There is, yeah. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it used to be.
How was I not notified?
How have you not stayed there?
The Coco Motel?
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder how we're still on the air?
No.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Xfinity here. How can we help?
Hi. My daughter invited her entire class to her birthday party. Can my Wi-Fi handle it?
Oh, well, at Xfinity, our latest gateways have tri-band Wi-Fi technology, letting you connect hundreds of devices at once.
No way. So if all the kids are watching stuff on their phones, well, their parents are sharing videos online.
Yep, go ahead and watch videos. They can all do their thing and party their way. No problem.
Oh, we are gonna need a bigger cake.
Now through September 22nd, get fast, reliable, 150 megabit Xfinity internet for just $30 a month for 12 months with a 1-year contract. And get Wi-Fi equipment included. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless bill and an auto-pay with stored bank account. Taxes and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Currently $71 a month. Actual speeds vary.
Back to school season arrives in Indiana. It's time to focus on school supplies and those home projects you've been delaying. Don't worry. With Moss Roofing, you're not alone. They're here to help with your roofing and siding, making sure your home is a safe place for math homework each and every day. Choose Moss Roofing to transform your home's exterior with top-notch James Hardy siding, protecting your home from those Indiana storms and enhancing your curb appeal. Their inspections are always free, and they'll even give you a 3D design link so you can visualize the makeover before they even begin. Talk to Moss Roofing today, a second-generation family business based right here in central Indiana. For a job done right every single time. I love when they do that. MossRoofing.com, 317-747-3665. 317-747-3665. Tell them Tony Katz sent you. 747-3665 or online at Moss, M-O-S-S, MossRoofing.com.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. Astronauts Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams will spend 8 months on the International Space Station for what was supposed to be an 8-day visit. NASA's Steve Stitch says they will return after SpaceX's February visit rather than earlier on the Boeing Starliner, which has thruster problems.
It's challenging to predict their performance. It's challenging to predict the temperatures we'll see. And so that's why it's been tough.
Democrats are downplaying the effect on Kamala Harris's campaign from the decision by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to end his candidacy and support Donald Trump. Our Griff Jenkins with numbers.
In Fox's polling, it shows Kennedy voters breaking about 60-40 for Trump over Harris. It also found 57% of them don't like either candidate.
America is listening to Fox News.
Whether you're dropping them off for their first day of school or they're driving themselves for the first time, we know you have enough on your mind. That's why Hubler's got you and your family covered for 100,000 miles. So head back to school in a Hubler Q-certified vehicle including a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. Shop any of our 12 locations and choose from Chevys, Fords, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. Over 2,000 vehicles. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Head back to school with peace of mind, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles.
Hubler's got you covered.
Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 12 locations.
Hubler's got you covered.
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Close your eyes and picture it. The warm sun on your face. The sound of waves lapping against the shore. What if I told you that feeling of summer relaxation could be yours all year round? At Howard Bailey Financial, we specialize in retirement planning that lets you embrace that summer state of mind every day. Imagine knowing that your future is secure. With our expert advisors, we'll craft a personalized retirement plan tailored to your dreams. Whether it's traveling the world or pursuing your passions, we'll ensure that your retirement is as carefree and fulfilling as a relaxing summer afternoon. Embrace a summer state of mind and text SUMMER to 888-494-5004 to download our complimentary retirement toolkit and experience your retirement planning with confidence.
This endorsement was not provided by a client of Howard Bailey. This individual was compensated for this endorsement. For more information, visit howardbailey.com/TSY.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And by the way, we just had a caller who apparently called in and talked to producer Landon, and he said something like, tell Guy to go to sleep. He's making me sleepy, or I don't know exactly what his point was. Hey, bro, you don't like the show? Just change that dial, man. It's easily fixed. In the meantime, I know there are at least a couple of people. I know my mom listens. I'm confident my mom listens. And hopefully a few more of you are there as well. You want to call in with some hate? Hey, we love it. It doesn't matter whether you love us or hate us. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. So we're talking about this ruling. It says the law that says, for the most part, machine guns are not allowed to be possessed by individuals. And a judge in Kansas, in Wichita, said that law is unconstitutional. And we talked about what a machine gun is and what it isn't. And listen, I've read some articles about this, and the media has just screwed this up royally, where the media is out there saying, well, in 1986, the Firearm Owners Protection Act banned civilian ownership of machine guns completely. Well, no, it didn't. It just said that the particular machine gun at issue has to have been registered under the National Firearms Act prior to the date of the enactment of FOPA in 1986. And if it was, it's legal to possess and it's legal to transfer. And it artificially dramatically drove up the price of any automatic firearms. It didn't make them illegal. It just incredibly restricted the supply of them in terms of which ones were available to civilians and available to be transferred. So why would a court come out and say that the ruling is unconstitutional, or the statute, rather, is unconstitutional, that for the most part prohibits possession of machine guns, or at least ones that weren't registered before 1986? Well, it starts back with the Supreme Court decision here just a couple of years ago in the Bruin decision, where it said, well, the test to determine whether a gun control law, this includes the provisions of the Firearm Owners Protection Act, whether that's constitutional or not, you look at the text, history, and tradition of the constitutional amendment we're talking about, in this case, the Second Amendment, and you look at whether the regulation is consistent. Well, first of all, what does the text say in the sense of what rights does it protect? How broad is it? How narrow is it? What rights does it protect? And the Supreme Court's ruled on that. Going all the way back to 2008, the Supreme Court said, well, the Supreme Court protects bearable arms. that are commonly used for lawful purposes by U.S. citizens. That's what it protects. And then you say, all right, well, that's the scope. Is the law in question deal with bearable arms commonly used for lawful purposes? If the answer to that is yes, then you say, all right, does this particular prohibition, is it consistent with the text, history, and tradition of regulation of the Second Amendment in the country? And either it is or it isn't. But the government is actually required to come in with historical analogs to say, yeah, these kinds of laws have historically been in place and upheld since the time of the founding. And to some degree, since the time of the enactment of the 14th Amendment, which made the Bill of Rights applicable to the states. And either there's a historical analog out there. And by the way, we had a more recent case interpreting the text, history, and tradition test that was put in place by the Bruin decision just a couple years ago. Here, more recently, Supreme Court came out and said, well, you don't have to have a historical twin. You just have to have an analog. In other words, something similar, a law that supports the same general principles this law is based on. And that broadened, I think, the test in terms of what's constitutional and what's not. But even under that test as amended, this court in Kansas said, nope, the ban on machine guns that were registered before 1986 is unconstitutional. And it's kind of interesting because when you look at it and you apply those standards, people can say, well, machine guns aren't really commonly owned, so it must be consistent with the history and tradition of regulation, and they probably fall outside the weapons that are protected. So it's okay to restrict them severely in terms of their possession by civilians. But what's really interesting about it is that Congress and the whole country considered machine guns to be totally legal and allowable in civilian hands until 1934. So from the time machine guns were invented up through 1934, they were pretty much unregulated. And even after 1934, they said, well, you can still possess them. You just have to register them first. And then civilians can still possess them. So for pretty much the entire history of this country, machine guns were totally allowable in civilian hands until 1986, when they still said they're allowable in civilian hands. We're just not going to register anymore. They weren't imported or manufactured before 1986. But it's still legal to have them. So how can you say they're dangerous and unusual, or the text, history, and tradition of regulation of the Second Amendment doesn't allow the possession of machine guns when you can still possess machine guns? And until 1986, they were basically regulated like any other kind of firearm. That's a pretty damn good argument. That's a pretty solid argument for why that restriction is unconstitutional. And I'll tell you what, we're a little past 3/4 hour. We're going to take a break. We come back, we'll talk more about this and what the implications are more broadly. And we'll continue to take your calls and questions, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Hours upon hours of them telling you how great Joe Biden is, then telling you in the same speeches how screwed up things are in the country. How can both of these things be true?
Yes, we love you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. You've done so much for the country. Now get out.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Indiana Gun Club. Indiana Gun Club is Indy's premier shotgun club. They're located in Fortville, just minutes from Indy. They've got over 2,000 guns in inventory. I'll tell you, I've bought several high-end guns out there, including my Sporting Clay shotgun, my Caesar Guerini, that I love completely. They sit on 150 acres. They offer trap, skeet, Sporting Clays, and 5-stand. They're open to the public. You don't have to be a member. You can go out there. There's plenty of parking. There's campground hookups. They host tournaments, registered shoots, fun shoots for all kinds of organizations, including one of my favorites, the Scholastic Clay tournament program, which it caters to our younger shooters. You can book all kinds of different events, whether it's a corporate event, a fundraiser, team building exercises, client relations, even bachelor parties. They've got room to accommodate 120 people out there. They can cater your meal. They're great chef out there, Gordon Gamilla, a friend of mine. I've eaten several of the meals he's catered in, and they're all fabulous. You can book any of that or all of that anytime you want. Just contact him at indianagunclub.com or give him a call out there as well. That's 317-485-6540, 317-485-6540, or contact them through the website, indianagunclub.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
The deals keep coming at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. Tony Katz here at Andy Moore Ford. The people, the selection, the service, everything you want. Shop their wide selection of certified pre-owned vehicles, all marked with more savings, so you can be sure you're driving home with the best deal. And their commercial truck center is currently undergoing big changes, which means bigger and better things for you coming soon. Stop by today. Check out every vehicle they have on the lot and all the electric vehicles they've got. The Mustang Mach-E, the E-Transit, and that F-150 Lightning, all in stock with more arriving daily. The all-electric F-150 Lightning has you covered with seating up to 5, intelligent backup power, and onboard power for all your tools and gear. And they've got the incentives, the rebates, the federal, the state incentives that can save you up to $7,500 instantly on site. Talk to Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield about your new car, your new truck, or your new electric vehicle. Andy Moore Ford, M-O-H-R. I love Andy. AndyMooreFord.com. Pain from arthritis is just awful. That bone-on-bone pain is constant, and it robs you of so much of the stuff you love to do, but there are effective ways to deal with that pain. Tony Katz here. There are exciting new therapies that can get you lasting relief, and the place to go is QC Kinetics. QC Kinetics uses cutting-edge treatments that accelerate your own body's healing properties, revitalizing your joints so you can move again. If you're living with chronic pain from arthritis or injury, you need to know steroids and surgery and pain pills are no longer your only option. Learn how QC Kinetics can use advanced regenerative medicine to treat the pain, enhance your joints, restore your mobility, and give you long-term relief with no downtime. Talk to the medical professionals at QC Kinetics. Get your free consultation right now. QC Kinetics in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and in Carmel. Call 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. Tell them Tony Katz sent you. Eagle Creek, Greenwood, Carmel, QC Kinetics. 317-559-PAIN.
I'm a grandson, a son. I'm an employee and a mentor. I'm a father to 2 beautiful kids and a husband to an amazing wife. And I have a substance use disorder. In other words, I'm living in recovery with an addiction. And now that you know, will you let it change how you see me? It's okay to see my addiction, but I want you to know it's people choosing to see me as a person that changed my life.
See the person, not just their disease. Learn more at cbeyondtheaddiction.org.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Never miss your favorite shows on WIBC. Get your content to go. Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, Hammer and Nigel, Tony Kennett, The Gun Guy, Home and Garden. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So we got a little deep in the weeds there on the law during the discussion of this ruling in Kansas. And by the way, what does this mean? The fact that one judge has ruled this way in Kansas. Does that mean the rest of us can go to the gun store tomorrow and say, hey, I want to buy that machine gun on the wall, and not have to go through the NFA restrictions, and even if that's a law enforcement or military only firearm that was produced after 1986, can we buy that tomorrow? Well, no, it doesn't mean that. It means one judge has determined, this one judge in Kansas has determined the law is unconstitutional, at least as applied to the individual before the court in that case. Doesn't really have much effect on the rest of us. Now, it has the potential to. It gets appealed. Goes up to the Circuit Court of Appeals for whatever circuit Kansas is in. And let's say there's the same ruling. That goes up to the Supreme Court of the United States, and they affirm it. Boom. Now, that's the law of the land for the rest of us. Do I think that will happen? We'll see. I think it's a solid argument. I mean, how can you say the history and tradition of regulation of the Second Amendment in this country supports the essential banning, again, put banning in quotes, since you can still legally own one that was transferable as of 1986. But it's hard to say that for the most part, the banning of a firearm that was totally, completely legal to possess up through 1986 in this country. Now, yes, after 1934, you had to register it, just like you have to register NFA items like suppressors and short-barreled rifles and whatnot, but you could still legally own it. You had to pay a tax to the government. You could absolutely still own it. So why all of a sudden now, where it's a felony, where you can go do 10 years in federal prison for possessing that same firearm that was totally legal to possess up through 1986, and you didn't even have to register until 1934, because we're going back to the founding of the country. We're going back to 1791 when the Second Amendment was ratified. And so if those guns are legal for all that period of time, and only in 1986 did they severely limit the availability of those firearms. They didn't make them illegal. They just limited the availability of them. Now that's constitutional? I'm a little doubtful. Tell you what, we're coming up on the end of the first hour. It's time to take a break. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Kamala Harris is there right now. She's the de facto president because, let's be honest, President Applesauce Brains isn't calling the shots. It's her and the Obamas. And they're talking about how we need to have hope in this country. Donald Trump has not been the president for nearly 4 years now. And 12 of the last 16 years has been Democrat leadership. So why do we need hope? This is your doing. It's ridiculous.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Tire Discounters announces our latest breakthrough, TD Chat BS. This software allows us to detect untruths, deceptions, and even outright lies.
Let's listen in as we call a local car dealer.
Hi, I drive your model of auto or truck. I need servicing.
Oh, that's great. You should always call the dealer for service to make sure your warranty stays intact.
Untruth.
Excuse me?
I can attend at Tire Discounters for all services, even for all manufacturers' scheduled maintenance. Warranty not affected.
But it's only us dealers who really know our own models.
Deception. Tire Discounters ASE technicians are certified experts for all makes and models.
Okay, maybe.
How many dollars do you charge me for? As few as Tire Discounters?
We are not that much more.
Outright lie. Ending call now. Bye.
No,
Adios. Aloha. Hasta la pasta.
Don't miss our Savor the Summer sale, now till Labor Day.
Life's full of unexpected joys, like problems with water. That's why there's Michaelis, a crew of 24/7 experts who are rescue ready, day or night, one phone call, for a gazillion disasters. Over 3 decades of restoring your home or business to better than new condition. Water, storms, fire, and wet basements. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
As fall approaches, you have a lot to prepare for. Back to school, sporting events, family gatherings, and staying on top of your health. The virus that causes COVID-19 continues to evolve. So this fall, no matter what you're prepping for, you can prioritize your family's health and make a game plan for COVID-19 vaccination. Ask your doctor or pharmacist to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Hey, don't take your eyes off the road. Just listen. What you hear right now, your customers hear it too. Get your message heard. Text BUSINESS to 71007 now. Get results with Radio 1.
This week, Sundown Gardens has 50% off all bald and burlap shade trees. 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield. SundownGardens.com.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
I'm Roger Stern, Fox News. And as we begin our first story, NASA's Boeing Starliner will return to Earth soon without its astronauts. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson.
NASA has decided that Butch and Sonny will return with Crew 9 next February. And that Starliner will return uncrewed.
The astronauts have been at the International Space Station for more than 2 months. Independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is suspending his campaign and throwing his support behind former President Donald Trump, appearing together at a rally in Glendale, Arizona last night.
We watched a moment that in past elections would have been unthinkable. A Kennedy walking on stage and endorsing the Republican nominee for president. But that's exactly what happened. RFK Jr. was met by thunderous applause from the crowd. Former President Trump mentioned the fact that over the course of RFK Jr.'s campaign, he went after Trump, but the former president welcomed Kennedy's supporters into the fold. The moment of those two men on stage together was a significant one, and we'll have to wait and see the impact on the presidential race. But the former president also spent a lot of time going after Vice President Harris.
Fox's Grady Trimble, the Harris campaign, and 5 of Kennedy's siblings say Kennedy's endorsement is a betrayal. The Islamic State group is claiming responsibility for a knife attack in Germany that killed 3 people and wounded 8 others. The group said the attackers targeted Christians and is a soldier of the Islamic State who carried out the attack to avenge Muslims in Palestine and everywhere. 2 people have been arrested. One of them, a 15-year-old boy, was suspected of knowing about the planned attack and failing to inform authorities. America is listening to Fox News.
I'm Emily Campagno. This month, the Fox True Crime Podcast presents Crimes on Campus.
More pledges, more money, more colleges, until it was a multi-million-dollar drug network.
You'll be joining me on college and university campuses all across the country as I share chilling stories of scandal, corruption, and murder.
Brutalized 5 students over 3 nights.
New episodes available every Tuesday this month. Listen and follow at foxtruecrime.com.
It's time to take the quiz.
5 questions, 5 minutes a day, 5 days a week.
History, pop culture, science, sports, civics. How much do you know? Let's find out.
Who was the first person to walk on the moon?
Jackson or something?
Neil Armstrong.
Take the quiz every weekday at thequiz.fox and then listen to the quiz podcast to find out how you did.
Play, share, and of course, listen to The Quiz right now at thequiz.fox.
Tropical storm Hone heading for Hawaii.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
What he had to say. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. By now, you may be aware that Indy Mayor Joe Hogsett has been receiving criticism following reports that one of his former employees sexually harassed multiple women. Multiple women have said that Thomas Cook, who once served as the chief deputy mayor and worked on Hogsett campaigns, used his former positions to groom, harass, and assault them. Hogsett provided updates Friday on what is being done to address and prevent future incidents. He said an anonymous reporting system will be made available to all employees soon, and he noted that he is committed to helping ensure a safe workplace for all. Speaking of politics, State Representative David Abbott of Rome City co-wrote a bill that's now law, which aims to slow the harmful effects of artificial intelligence because it's been happening too much in Indiana and across the country.
Requiring disclaimers on altered political advertisements will help protect Hoosier voters from being misled and boost election transparency.
He says if the material does not include a disclaimer, the candidate can bring a civil action against those responsible for the fake content. But the world's first lung cancer vaccine trial is underway in 7 countries, including the United States. It's a phase 1 clinical trial that uses an mRNA vaccine, similar to the COVID-19 vaccines. A company developed it to treat non-small cell lung cancer, which is the most common type of lung cancer. 130 patients are enrolled in the trial and are receiving the vaccine alongside immunotherapy. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, partly cloudy, low temperatures in the upper 60s. And for tomorrow, partly cloudy, hot, and slightly humid, high temperatures in the lower 90s. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
Have you lost Indiana Medicaid? At healthcare.gov, you can find a low-cost, quality health plan.
Do plans cover doctor visits?
What about emergency care?
And prescriptions?
All covered and more. Plus, with the new law, 4 out of 5 customers can find a plan for $10 or less per month with financial help. Healthcare.gov is here for you. Enroll today for coverage starting the 1st of next month. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
As fall approaches, you have a lot to prepare for. Back to school, sporting events, family gatherings, and staying on top of your health. The virus that causes COVID-19 continues to evolve. So this fall, no matter what you're prepping for, you can prioritize your family's health and make a game plan for COVID-19 vaccination. Ask your doctor or pharmacist to learn more. Sponsored by Pfizer.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, welcome back for the hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. And by the way, just had a question on the YouTube feed. And if you ever want to watch the show, in addition to just listening to the show, you can go to YouTube and look for WIBC or the Gun Guy Show, and boom, we'll be right there. I always say the same thing. I mean, I'm not much to look at, but if you want to watch the show, we're right here. But Dale asked the question on the chat feature of the YouTube feed and said, I'm going from Indiana to New York next week. I'm licensed to carry in Indiana. So since New York is my destination, does that mean I cannot take my gun with me, even if it's locked up in a case? Yes, Dale, that's exactly what that means. You cannot, emphasize cannot, take your gun to New York. Now, a couple of things, and that question, for those of you maybe just joining the show, that question comes out of my discussion earlier about the safe passage provision of FOPA, the Firearm Owners Protection Act, 1986. And what that said and what that requires is if you're legal at your point of origin and you're legal at your destination to possess and carry your firearm, you can carry it through any other state, notwithstanding the laws of that state or the laws of any political subdivision, meaning towns, cities, counties, whatever, so long as the gun's unloaded, it's separate from any ammunition, it's in a separate compartment from the passenger compartment. If the vehicle doesn't have a separate compartment, it has to be in a locked case, separate from the ammunition. So those are the requirements of FOPA. And so Dale says, does that mean I can't take my gun to New York? Yes, because your destination is New York, then you don't meet that requirement that you're legal where your destination is, even though you're legal where your point of origin was, Indiana. And this is important. And by the way, one thing we've seen happen more than once across the country, and the thing that's always made me nervous about traveling under the protections of the Firearms Owners Protection Act, is that, do you think every local cop, every county sheriff, every officer on the street is going to understand the federal law that protects you against arrest or prosecution traveling through their state, even though you're essentially violating the laws of that state. For instance, a law in a state that says they don't recognize Indiana's license to carry, like New York does not. No, I don't trust every local cop. Do I trust NYPD? And they may be full of great officers. Don't know. I've had very limited contact with NYPD. But do I think every officer at NYPD or every New York State Trooper or New Jersey State Trooper or whatever it might be understands the federal law that protects me for driving through New York, New Jersey, or several other places if I meet those requirements? Again, legal where I start, legal where I end. Unloaded, et cetera, everything I went through. No, of course I don't. They're not lawyers. I don't know that they're trained on that. What's the likelihood I get arrested if they catch me with a gun where it's illegal to have my gun in that jurisdiction? Very high. What's the likelihood I get prosecuted? Very high. What's the likelihood some local prosecutor says, I don't care about this damn federal law. We're going to go ahead and prosecute you right here in this particular county in New Jersey or New York? Very high. That's what always made me nervous. What I used to do when I would travel and rely on this, and by the way, I never had the cojones to go through New Jersey or New York relying on FOPA. I just didn't see it ending well if I did any such thing. But when I would travel, usually the other direction, as before Illinois had their safe passage law, for people with an Indiana license anyway, what I used to do, and you may chuckle at this, I used to print a copy of the Firearm Owners Protection Act, in particular the safe passage provision, and I put it in my gun case, right in with the container that held the firearm. So I said, if somebody finds my gun, that is law enforcement, finds my gun, they're going to find this printout of the statute I'm relying upon to say, don't arrest me, I'm legal under this federal law. And then, okay, all right, what if that officer then says, well, I don't care about federal law, you're in Illinois now, or you're wherever you happen to be, and we don't care much about federal law. Well, if it comes right down to it, since federal law protects me, and if some local law is directly inconsistent with that, if they directly conflict, that's where the supremacy clause of the Constitution comes into play. It says federal law preempts state law on this issue, and that federal law wins, so I'm protected against prosecution. But back to Dale's question. No, brother, do not take your gun to New York unless you're willing to look at a couple of years in prison. And listen, on these kind of issues, and if you're listening to the Gun Guy Show, you may be thinking this right now. People say, the most common comment I see out there on social media when we're talking about issues like this, people say, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. Now, what's that mean? I'd rather go to court and be prosecuted for breaking some local state or other jurisdiction's laws than get killed because I wasn't able to defend myself. And listen, hey, I'm a lawyer. I'm not going to recommend to anybody they break the law. Now, I'm not put together that way. I haven't spent 42 years, now 41 years, I guess it is, as an attorney. I'm not going to say, oh, screw it, break the law. At the same time, I understand that mentality. I understand people who have that value system that, hey, my life to me is more important. I get it. I totally understand it, and I would never criticize anybody for it. Now, let's switch gears a little bit, and let's talk about this upcoming presidential election, which obviously is getting a lot of media coverage, a lot of press, a lot of discussion on social media and otherwise, because the DNC just wrapped up. The Democrats had their convention. Kamala Harris accepted the nomination Thursday night, and we heard a lot about the Democrat platform. You did not hear a lot about gun control. There was the occasional mention of the quote-unquote assault weapon ban they want to see, But what does this election really mean for two-way rights? And listen, make no mistake on this either. When it comes to the difference between Democrats and Republicans, when it comes to your Second Amendment rights, that's a big damn difference. Big damn difference. Both in terms of members of Congress and, hell, members of the Indiana General Assembly, as well as the candidates for president. Well, what does it really mean? How much better or worse is former President Trump than Kamala Harris? Let's get into some specifics, and let's be completely forthright about this and talk about what these candidates, a better way of saying it, really mean for our Second Amendment rights going forward, depending on what happens here on November 6th, I believe it is, the election. Will your Second Amendment rights look profoundly different after November 6th if Kamala Harris is elected? That's what we'll get into when we come back. We'll continue to take your calls. We had a couple of people who called in and then decided they didn't want to go on the air for whatever reason, but we'll gladly put you on. Give us a call, join the discussion. 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
We assume that you have one of those kind of soaking tubs.
Oh, you're talking about like up at the Coco Motel. The Kokomo there.
The Coco Motel?
Yep.
Please tell me there's a real place called the Coco Motel.
There is, yeah. I don't know if it's still there or not, but it used to be.
How was I not notified?
How have you not stayed there?
The Coco Motel?
Yeah.
Do you ever wonder how we're still on the air?
No.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for RockOp Defense Solutions. Listen, these are my friends located in Avon. They're a privately owned, licensed federal firearms licensee and manufacturer of high-quality, hand-built AR-15s designed for both the defender, like me, the private citizen, and a professional. With over 40 years of combined law enforcement experience among the two owners, these guys know how to put together a operational ready and deployable firearm, whether it's a patrol setting or team environment or personal use. RockOp Defense is your solution for high quality and purpose-built fighting rifles, cradle to client. They build them right there in Avon with absolutely outstanding parts. And being located right here in central Indiana makes them incredibly easy for us to deal with right here in the same location. They offer custom builds, upgrade services, Cerakote, refinishing, laser engraving, battle barrel crowning, and threading, and much, much more. I have my RockOp Defense rifle. In fact, we had it right here in the studio last week when owner Ross was here. Ross Earls, my friend, and I love this rifle. I just zeroed it, as I talked about, and it is an incredible soft shooter for an AR-15. Incredibly accurate. I couldn't be happier. Check out my friends at RockOp Defense Solutions. You can look them up online. It's Rock-Op Defense. That's rock-opdefense.com. Give them a call at 317-549-5017. Check them out again at rock-opdefense.com.
Business. It's not a 9-to-5 proposition. It's all day and into the night. It's all the things that keep this world turning. And behind every one of these businesses is a partner like Comcast Business helping to keep it all moving. It's why the local flower shop and your favorite pizza joint, the startup and the stadium, hospitals and hotels, banks and restaurants nationwide. All these businesses choose the advanced network, cybersecurity solutions, and round-the-clock trusted partnership from Comcast Business. From Main Street to Wall Street, our people are powering the businesses that power it all. So when you're ready to unlock what's possible for your business, there's no one better to answer the call. Comcast Business, powering possibilities.
Restrictions apply. Call or visit ComcastBusiness.com to learn more.
With tens of thousands of satisfied patients across America, it's no surprise QC Kinetics gets 5-star reviews.
I'm feeling on top of the world because of QC Kinetics.
I'm able to do the things that I wasn't able to do for a long time.
I can recommend them highly.
I would recommend QC to anybody.
QC Kinetics has changed my life.
I couldn't believe it. I honestly was skeptical, but the pain went from a 10 to a 0.
Real people with real lasting relief from joint pain.
QC Kinetics Regenerative Medicine is regenerating me.
Super successful, and I recommend everyone seek out QC Kinetics as an alternative to surgery.
This non-surgical approach is definitely the future.
I tell as many people as possible. I am an ambassador. I love QC Kinetics.
QC Kinetics, the nation's leader in advanced regenerative medicine. No drugs, no surgery. Call QC Kinetics now for your free consultation.
Call QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN. That's 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Boone County Fairgrounds in Lebanon. The best dealers in the region, hundreds of tables, just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Boone County Fairgrounds in Lebanon. For more info, visit CentralIndianaGunShows.com.
I had changed the locks, didn't even know where she was living. And then one night she calls to say she's getting treatment. Can I drive? I almost hung up. But then I thought, that's my kid. I chose to put away the hurt and the fear and just see my girl.
Addiction is a disease. Standing by a loved one as they fight it will test your faith, patience, and sanity. But it's possible when you see the person, not just their disease. Learn more at seebeyondtheaddiction.org.
We may be thousands of miles apart, but we can still connect. And when we do, we make things better. At Child Fund, we connect children all around the world with what they need to grow up healthy, educated, and safe. Together, we co-create connections that help millions of children who live in poverty worldwide, and their families, and their communities, and you. Join us. Together, we can make the world a better place. 2 small worlds at a time. Visit childfund.org to learn more.
Together, we can provide 1 billion meals by 2030, because everyone should be welcome at the table. Learn more at nourishingneighbors.com.
No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures. Learn more at helpnokidhungry.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So we're talking about what difference does it really make? God, that sounded way too much like Hillary Clinton. But what difference does it really make in terms of who's elected president in this next election as to our Second Amendment rights? And my personal view is it makes a hell of a difference. It makes a difference probably even more so who has control of the Senate and the House of Representatives. If you see Kamala Harris, God forbid, in the White House and a Democrat-controlled House and Senate, that gets real scary for your gun rights real quick. But let's compare these two candidates. And by the way, I said before, I think I asked the question, isn't it November 6th is the presidential election? Bonnie very kindly corrected me on the YouTube feed and said, no, it's the 5th. Thank you for that. Exactly right. So in that presidential election, it's going to happen November 5th. Is this really going to make a difference? Listen, the flow-through effect, that is the effect of the presidential election on lower level elections, Congress specifically, Senate and House. You put all those things together, it starts making a huge difference. But what are the real differences between Donald Trump, Republican nominee, and now Kamala Harris, who's been really installed, not having won a single primary or been committed to by a single delegate? Now, okay, now she's the candidate. All right. What does it really mean? Well, let's go back and listen. Let's be completely honest about Donald Trump's history on Second Amendment. And listen, make no mistake, I'm going to enthusiastically vote for Donald Trump. So just let's get it right on past that. Has Donald Trump been perfect on Second Amendment issues? The answer to that is, oh, hell no. I mean, after he was elected in 2016, and by the way, I was there in Louisville at the NRA annual meeting when the NRA endorsed Donald Trump, and it was a big deal. And he had what I thought was an absolutely brilliant strategy, was that he released his list of people that he would choose from to be Supreme Court justices. Because remember, we had an open seat that turned into Neil Gorsuch's seat, and there were several other justices that people were concerned were going to retire or have poor health, and Trump ended up nominating 3 Supreme Court justices, all of whom were confirmed, and that's made a huge difference on Second Amendment rights. Biggest effect on Second Amendment rights in this country in my lifetime, and I'm damn old. So the 3 justices that President Trump nominated as opposed to Hillary Clinton, that's huge, humongous. And they've been incredibly strong on 2A rights. This latest decision kind of pulling back on text, history, and tradition a little bit, I'm not necessarily crazy about, but I understand it. In fact, I predicted it. But that's Trump's contribution. In terms of what he's done as an executive, I think we need to be honest about this. And again, am I saying don't vote for the guy? No, I'm going to vote for him. I absolutely. And do we want Kamala Harris in the White House? Oh, of course not. Absolutely not. Perish the thought. But let's be completely honest about Donald Trump. While he's going to be my candidate of choice, that's who I'm going to vote for. I didn't vote for him in the primary in 2016. I voted for Ted Cruz. I trusted Ted Cruz on my constitutional rights, being a constitutional rights attorney, for crying out loud. I trusted Ted Cruz more than I trusted Donald Trump. Donald Trump, in his book and otherwise, publicly, leading up to the 2016 election, had said things like he could see supporting an assault weapon ban, quote unquote. Again, assault weapon being a political term. You're talking about banning the most commonly owned rifles in America. Trump had said that. And I didn't necessarily trust him 100%, although I trusted him 1,000% more than I trusted Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton was out saying she didn't believe the Second Amendment even conferred an individual right, not conferred, but even protected an individual right to bear arms at all. That if you weren't in the military, the Second Amendment did nothing for you. And when the Supreme Court ruled to the contrary in 2008, Hillary Clinton went public to say she thought the Supreme Court got it wrong. So it scares the hell out of any thinking person who cares about Second Amendment rights what Hillary Clinton would have done with her Supreme Court nominations. However, once elected, and again, I was sitting there in the audience in Louisville when President Trump got the endorsement of NRA at the NRA annual meeting 2016. Watching him in office wasn't perfect. Just so everybody understands what we're really talking about here. He did, after the Las Vegas shooting, he did what formed a precedent, formed to some degree a foundation for a lot of what Biden's done to attack the Second Amendment through executive agency action. President Trump came out because a bump stock or multiple bump stocks were allegedly used by the shooter in the Las Vegas mass shooting. And again, a horrible event, most catastrophic mass shooting in the history of the United States. So you're going to expect a reaction, of course. But since a bump stock was used, President Trump came out and said, oh, bump stocks are gone. I'm telling the ATF to get rid of bump stocks. He didn't say, I'm asking Congress to ban bump stocks. through the passage of a law to amend, for instance, the Gun Control Act of 1968 or amend National Firearms Act even going back to 1934. He just said, I'm telling the ATF, essentially through regulatory action, make bump stocks illegal. Well, can the ATF do that? Because they did. They followed the orders of the president, and they made bump stocks illegal. Well, here, just this past year, the Supreme Court of the United States came out and said the bump stock ban, as ordered by President Trump, was unconstitutional because the ATF exceeded its regulatory capacity by making something illegal that was legal before, which they didn't have the ability to do. That's something Congress needed to do. But that was done on the order of President Trump, so we need to be honest about that when we're looking at records. President Trump also, after the Parkland shooting, came out in support of red flag laws. And somebody said, there was a meeting with legislators, and people are calling for a national red flag law. And some of the legislators said, well, of course, the protection of due process needs to be in place before you can start seizing guns from people under a red flag law, particularly when no crime has been committed yet by the person you're going to seize guns from under a red flag law. So we're worried about due process. And that was a comment on live TV. I was watching it at the time. And President Trump said, well, take the guns first, due process later. That was a problem. That was a problem for me. It was a problem for a lot of people. Now, other than bump stocks, though, and listen, nobody much cares about bump stocks. I think bump stocks are stupid. I've said all along, I wouldn't own a bump stock. I show up to my range or show up to a lesson I'm teaching and you got a bump stock on your rifle, I'm going to make fun of you. You're trading accuracy for rate of fire, which in most self-defense scenarios is completely idiotic. So I don't care about bump stocks, but I cared a lot about President Trump telling the ATF to make him illegal because I didn't like the precedent that set. I said, man, we're going to start making things illegal. We're going to start passing gun control laws by executive fiat. That's dangerous for all of us, and that's not a precedent we want to set. And what has Biden done since then? Pistol braces, forced reset triggers to some degree, ghost guns. I mentioned pistol braces already. And it goes on and on. So many of the things we're fighting about right now in the courts that were ATF regulations handed down was Biden using the precedent set by Donald Trump to say we're going to ban these things or restrict these things or put people in jail for the first time for owning these things by executive agency action, by regulations adopted by the ATF rather than Congress, with Congress needing the votes to accomplish. No, we're going to go through executive agency action. And if we're being completely honest, a lot of that comes back to President Trump's doorstep. So why do I still support the guy? Why am I going to enthusiastically vote for him? Well, that's because of the complete nightmare that a President Kamala Harris would be in the White House. We'll continue to talk about that and take your calls, 317-239-9393, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
Hours upon hours of them telling you how great Joe Biden is, then telling you in the same speeches how screwed up things are in the country.
Mm-hmm.
How can both of these things be true?
Yes, we love you, Joe. Thank you, Joe. You've done so much for the country. Now get out.
Kendall and Casey, weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
The deals keep coming at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield. Tony Katz here at Andy Moore Ford. The people, the selection, the service, everything you want. Shop their wide selection of certified pre-owned vehicles, all marked with more savings, so you can be sure you're driving home with the best deal. And their commercial truck center is currently undergoing big changes, which means bigger and better things for you coming soon. Stop by today. Check out every vehicle they have on the lot and all the electric vehicles they've got. The Mustang Mach-E, the E-Transit, and that F-150 Lightning. All in stock with more arriving daily. The all-electric F-150 Lightning has you covered with seating up to 5, intelligent backup power, and onboard power for all your tools and gear. And they've got the incentives, the rebates, the federal, the state incentives that can save you up to $7,500 instantly on site. Talk to Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield about your new car, your new truck, or your new electric vehicle. Andy Moore Ford, M-O-H-R. I love Andy. AndyMooreFord.com.
Denny Smith here for Sundown Gardens and Miss M's Home and Garden. At both locations this week, get 20% off container trees and shrubs and 30% off balled and burlapped evergreens. Up north at Sundown Gardens only, it's 50% off all balled and burlap shade trees. Mums are in and more are arriving daily. Sundown Gardens at 186th Street and Spring Mill Road in Westfield, sundown.gardens.com. Miss M's on State Road 135 in Bargersville, MissM'sHomeandGarden.com.
Seems like there's more identity theft in the news every day.
Another major healthcare breach was reported today, resulting in the exposure.
1 in 4 consumers have been a victim of identity theft.
That's because there are endless places that could accidentally expose you to identity theft, in a breach, or simply by mistake. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Fox News, I'm Ann Carrick. NASA decides 2 astronauts must stay longer in space.
NASA deciding Saturday that it's too risky to bring 2 astronauts back to Earth in Boeing's troubled new Starliner capsule. Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams will now wait until next year for a ride home with SpaceX. Their planned week-long test flight to and from the International Space Station has now lasted almost 3 months, thanks to the capsule's thruster problems and helium leaks. NASA will try and get the empty Starliner back to Earth by using an autopilot.
Fox's Paul Stevens. 3 dead, 8 others wounded in a knife attack in Germany. The Islamic State group claiming responsibility, saying the attacker is a soldier of the Islamic State, targeting Christians to avenge Muslims in Palestine and beyond. The suspect is under arrest. America's listening to Fox News.
Whether you're dropping them off for their first day of school or they're driving themselves for the first time, we know you have enough on your mind. That's why Hubler's got you and your family covered for 100,000 miles. So head back to school in a Hubler Q-certified vehicle, including a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. Shop any of our 12 locations and choose from Chevys, Fords, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. Over 2,000 vehicles. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Head back to school with peace of mind, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles.
Hubler's got you covered.
Visit drivehubler.com or any of our 12 locations.
Hubler's got you covered.
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Terry Stacy here. Honey Baked Ham isn't just for the holidays. Stop in for lunch and choose from handcrafted sandwiches, salads, soups, and more. Or take home a heat and serve family meal that comes with a home-style main dish, sides, and rolls. Perfect for busy weekend nights and better than fast food. Have a special event this summer? Let Honey Baked cater with sandwich trays or a VIP buffet with all the extras. Honey Baked on West 96th Street in Indy or Greyhound Pass in Carmel makes it easy to serve something special any day of the year.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. JD Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed. Limited time. For JD Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you, we've had a couple people call in. So let's go to the phone lines, and Jeremy is called in. Jeremy, welcome to the Gun Guy Show.
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. You doing all right?
Oh, yeah. I just had a question. I've always built things myself. I build things for a living. And I wanted to build my own pistol brace. But I don't know. Is there like a certain criteria? Is that legal to do? Is there a length of pole or a surface area requirement?
Oh, man. You know, I couldn't even give you the specifics, Jeremy. I mean, just to go back a little history on pistol braces. When pistol braces were considered to be legal for a lot of years, and if people don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, a pistol brace is something, if you take your AR pistol meaning it's got a barrel less than 16 inches long, and it only has a pistol grip, it doesn't have a shoulder stock on it. A pistol grip was designed to essentially strap around your forearm. It goes where the stock would normally go, but ostensibly they weren't designed to be used as a shoulder stock. You put it against your shoulder, you strap the thing over your forearm, and that allowed you to be more stable, thus pistol stabilizing brace, by having this brace that's strapped around your forearm. And the original ones were sent to the ATF for what's called a determination letter to say, hey, is this thing legal, or does this turn my pistol into an SBR, which is a short-barreled rifle? Because a rifle is something designed to be fired from the shoulder. And can you take a pistol brace and put it against your shoulder and use it as a shoulder stock? Yes. And that's, frankly, the reason that ultimately the ATF came out and said, no, these all make your rifle an SBR. You have to register them under the National Firearms Act, because people were just doing it as a get-around to registering their gun as short-barreled rifles. They didn't want to have a 16-inch barrel, and they still wanted to use it as a short-barreled rifle, and so they put a pistol brace on it. But those got approved initially until the ATF, and 10 years later, the ATF came out and said, no, these make your gun an SBR. What the specific criteria were, Jeremy, to answer your question, that got those approved originally, that they were braces and not stocks, I couldn't tell you. And, all I know is they, based on whatever the designs were that went in, ATF approved those particular designs. I can't give you specifics on, like length of pull and whether they have to have this retention strap that goes over your forearm and all of that. That's right down the nitty-gritty. And frankly, I was never a fan. I'm still not a fan, even though a judge in Texas came out and said that the pistol brace ban was not passed appropriately under what's called the Administrative Procedures Act. It wasn't ruled unconstitutional under the Second Amendment. It was just found to not have been passed appropriately. And a judge in the Northern District of Texas actually put a nationwide prohibition, a nationwide injunction prohibiting the ATF from enforcing it. But does that mean I can just put any stock I want to on my pistol and declare it a pistol brace? No, it has to be, it has to be legitimately a pistol brace. What those factors are, what those criteria are, man, I hate to admit ignorance on gun-related issues, but buddy, I don't know. I would want to go back and look at those original designs that were originally approved by the ATF as pistol braces before they did a 180 and started saying they were illegal. Let's go back to the phone lines, and Pat has called in. Pat? Uh-oh, Pat, you got a lot of background noise there, brother. You ready to talk on the radio?
My entire family just arrived.
Okay, well, might come back to Pat. I'm not sure what was going on there. Ralph was called in. Ralph, well, I'm called Ralph because my last name is Relford. So, in fact, I had fraternity brothers going through graduation that thought my name was Ralph Relford. But at any rate, Ralph is called in. Ralph, what you got for us?
Hello, Guy.
Hello.
I just purchased a weapon, and I would like to try it out on a firing range. And my go-to place was Don's Guns on Lafayette Road. I'm actually living close to there, but it looks like they're closed forever. So do you have any recommendation for me?
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I'm real picky on indoor ranges, Pat. For instance, oh, no, I'm sorry. This is Ralph. I like a really good ventilation because that's important because there's stuff coming out of your gun barrel, including lead, that you don't want to breathe a lot of. And I like a well-lit range. I want to be able to see my sights, I want to be able to see the target well. And for those factors, and again, I've taught lessons there. I have a relationship with these guys. But for my money, Indy Arms is where I like to shoot. I'll actually drive past other indoor ranges just to go to Indy Arms because I love the ventilation. I mean, when you're in there on that range, you can feel the air moving. And I've been on the roof there. Owner Rick Cass has shown me their HVAC system. I think you could power a aircraft carrier with the HVAC system that's on the roof of Indy Arms. And it's well lit, it's clean, the staff is good. So I'm a big fan there. I've shot at some of the other indoor ranges around. Outdoors, hard to find. You can get into some of the county conservation clubs. I'm looking at joining a long distance range out in Brookville or out that direction anyway. That's called Indiana Ordnance Innovations is the name of them. But I have a couple of long distance rifles now that I really want to shoot out to distance. And Indiana Ordnance Innovations is out to 1,300 yards, which is a damn long way when it comes to shooting a rifle. I'm kind of excited about that. But just for shooting pistols and doing it, in all kinds of weather, doing it indoors, my favorite place is Indy Arms. That's an unsolicited, unpaid recommendation, although I do have a long-standing relationship with the folks at Indy Arms. So take that for what it's worth. You know what? We're at the 3/4 hour. We're going to take a break. Pat, we're gonna try to come back to you, brother, when we come, or I shouldn't say brother. I don't know if Pat might be a Patricia, and yeah, producer Landon's going, yeah, bro, yeah, that you go that direction. But Pat, we're gonna try you again, so hopefully you're not quite as distracted. We'll come back after this break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Hammer and Nigel.
Kamala Harris is there right now. She's the de facto president because, let's be honest, President Applesauce Brains isn't calling the shots. It's her and the Obamas. And they're talking about how we need to have hope in this country. Donald Trump has not been the president for nearly 4 years now. And 12 of the last 16 years has been Democrat leadership. So why do we need hope? This is your doing. It's ridiculous.
Hammer and Nigel, weekdays 3 till 7 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford again for Rock-Op Defense Solutions, man, located right there in Avon, here in central Indiana. These folks are a top-flight producer, manufacturer, and seller of some of the nicest firearms you're ever going to see. I've just recently acquired my Rock 15, their version of an AR-15 that's fabulous. It's hand-built, as all their rifles are, and these are by folks, their ownership there to two individuals, including my friend Ross Hurls. They have over 40 years of law enforcement experience, and they bring that to bear to produce the kind of rifles that whether you're in law enforcement, you're a private individual looking for self-defense, they're producing purpose-built fighting rifles, cradle to client. What does that mean? That means they're assembling the parts, they're selecting the parts, they're personally matching the parts, and they're making this the best performing rifle that they can produce. They also offer custom builds, upgrade services, Cerakote refinishing, laser engraving, barrel crowning, and barrel threading, and much, much more. Check them out. They're there in Avon. You can check them out. Their website is Rock-Op Defense. Got to put the hyphen in there, Rock-Op updefense.com or give them a call at 317-549-5017. I got my Rock 15 from these guys. I love this rifle. It's my favorite AR-15 I've ever owned, and I've owned a lot. And check them out at rock-opdefense.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
PA Jewelers in Brownsburg is your place for fine jewelry, custom pieces, one-of-a-kind pieces, vintage pieces, and also your place to sell jewelry. 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg, PA Jewelers inside Premier Arms. You have old jewelry from grandma or jewelry you don't wear anymore? Come sell it for top dollar at PA Jewelers. I've sold jewelry there. My wife has. You're going to love the prices. PA Jewelers inside Premier Arms, 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg, premierarms.com.
Life insurance. Why are you putting it off? Can't afford it? Too much hassle? Think you don't need it? There's lots of excuses for putting off life insurance. But if you weren't there, who would pay the mortgage and other bills? With Ethos, you could be covered in 10 minutes and boom, family protected. Ethos, fast and easy online term life insurance. Up to $2 million in coverage with no medical exam. Some policies as low as $1 a day. Answer a few health questions and get your free quote at checkethos.com. That's checkethos.com.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career and they talked to me about it.
He was done in just months.
I did do it online.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months with zero experience at My Computer Career.
It worked for me and I know it can work for you.
It's not rocket science. It's mycomputercareer.edu.
Did you know you can get your prescriptions for less at your local pharmacy? You can with GoodRx. It's the free app that can save you money on your medications. Just search for your prescription, choose the pharmacy and the price that works best for you, and then show your GoodRx coupon to your pharmacist at the drop-off counter. GoodRx works at over 70,000 pharmacies, including Walmart, Rite Aid, and Walgreens, and it works whether you have insurance or not. It's easy to save. Next time you drop off your prescription, check GoodRx. To start saving today, go to goodrx.com. GoodRx is not insurance.
When I was younger, I may have did some stupid things, even committed some crimes, but I am not a criminal.
I work for youth advocate programs, yeah. I was Tamani's advocate, helping him stay out of jail, stay in the neighborhood, and get a job.
As a little kid, I experienced trauma and I acted out. Made some mistakes, but I'm not a mistake.
As Jalen's YAP advocate, I'm always here for her.
YAP is a community-based alternative to youth incarceration and neighborhood violence. Youth advocate programs. Learn how at yapinc.org.
Addiction. It's hard on those who struggle with it, but those who love the addict need support too. Matt Baer and Ryan Hedrick provide help and hope with Supporting Sobriety. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and on WIBC.com. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment here of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. I'll tell you what, we tried to go to Pat a little earlier. Sounded like she may have been otherwise engaged. Pat, are you still there?
I'm still here, and I apologize.
I think you had an unhappy young one there before.
Yes, there was 5 dogs and a 10-month-old arrived right as you clicked on to me, and chaos ensued.
We've all been there, at least most of us, so I completely understand. But did you have a question for us?
Yes, I do. We were having a family discussion, and a gun question came up, and everybody said, well, let's just wait till Saturday and call the gun guy.
There you go.
So I was elected to call. My husband and son do a lot of online and auction things, and occasionally they're buying kind of a box, sight unseen. It's unopened. My son one time bought a trunk that was locked, didn't know what was going to be in it. What if it ended up it was Tiffany China? Or crystal, but what if we got that trunk and unlocked it and it had guns in it?
Well, The law says if you intentionally buy a gun across state lines, for instance, is this a online auction where somebody be shipping it to you?
No. We mostly just do local.
Oh, it's local. Oh, okay. Well, that's a little different. Even then, if it's being sold, if somebody's engaged in the business of doing that, it would be illegal to sell it to you if they don't have a federal firearms license. If they do have a federal firearms license, what's up?
But the trunk was locked. I mean, we didn't know what was in it until we got it.
So nobody knows what's in it.
Right. Until we got it home and picked the lock.
Yeah. Well, I don't think if anybody intentionally bought or sold a gun without a license, or intentionally sold a gun to someone who wasn't eligible to buy a gun, I don't necessarily see somebody being prosecuted for that. I would be very nervous about that if there are guns in it, because there are restrictions on who.
What should we do with the guns? I mean, like, are they ours?
Well, yeah. I mean, you can possess any gun you lawfully acquired, unless you're a prohibited possessor. So,
No,
do you have a reason? Do you have a reason to think there are guns in this thing?
No. We just were curious we just wondered what would happen if there were guns. Do we get to keep them? Do we have to?
Yeah.
Turn them
No.
over
I
to
mean.
someone?
Yeah. I mean, I don't, off the top of my head, see a reason with keeping them. I would want to think about that. That's not an official legal opinion. It's not legal advice. You guys want to call my office on Monday? We'll put a little more thought into this. But I can't think of a reason why you'd be breaking the law unless you're otherwise prohibited possessors by keeping the firearms. Yeah, I'm sure you're not. He wouldn't be asking the question. But no, I can't think of a reason why it would be illegal, because you just bought a locked trunk with it's kind of like buying the storage lockers on Storage Wars, where nobody really knows what's in them. You just buy them and hope for the best. Right. Sounds like the same kind of thing. Yeah, no, I can't. You're not intentionally doing anything wrong. I can't imagine you're breaking the law, but you want a more informed opinion with a little more time to look into it. Give me a call on Monday, and I'll be glad to try to address it in a little more detail. But thanks for calling the Gun Guy Show. Appreciate it. Let's go back and listen. We've only got about a minute here in this edition of the Gun Guy Show. But listen, I went through some of what I consider to be the transgressions of Donald Trump when it comes to the Second Amendment. I didn't like the bump stock ban. I didn't like the way he did it. I didn't like the way he told the ATF to accomplish that. I didn't like his support for red flag laws, where he said due process later. I had a big problem with that. Having said all that, will I enthusiastically vote for the guy? Oh, hell yes. Kamala Harris has come out, for instance, and said she supports, a mandatory buyback program. What's that? This is for so-called assault weapons, right? Your rifle, my rifle. Rifles have been advertising here on the Gun Guy Show. Well, that's where the government comes and takes your rifle if you don't voluntarily sell it to them, because that's the mandatory part. They've talked about mandatory background checks. We've talked about that and how that's unworkable. So there's a whole parade of horribles in my mind that would clearly violate the Second Amendment. If you care anything about the Second Amendment, obviously you're not going to vote for Kamala Harris. And with that, that's this week's edition of the Gun Guy Show. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back.
Are you ready to smell better naked? I'm Dr. Shannon Kling.